was a party that kind of, came out of the late 70s, Carter era into the early 80s, and this neoliberal experiment in the Democratic Party. Simultaneously, it doesn't allow dissent internally. I mean, what kind of Democratic Party are you?
Yeah, I know. And they won. And it is funny because they themselves were dissenters back in the day. But it's this 30-year experiment, and it's been disastrous, I think, in almost any way you look at it. By the way, to go back to Listen Liberal, my book about the Democratic Party, the research for it, I've actually got it right here. The research for it, I was just going over this the other day. It's all out in the open. It's not like I was, there's no skullduggery. I had to do a little bit of historical digging, but it's all there in magazines, in the library. The Democratic Leadership Council, which was the group that shifted the Democrats to the right, they had a House magazine. You can look it up as easily as I did. Before them, this group called the Neoliberals. They actually called themselves that, by the way.
The organization called the Neoliberals.
Yeah, they put out anthologies of their writing. They're proud of it.
It's not like a collector's edition.
Oh no! I
want to light it on fire and say, "Burn the books, man!"
No. These are all readily available at the library or on Amazon. You buy them secondhand. There's nothing secret about this. It really happened. They were out in the open. What's the most damning of all the Democratic books? I always blank on the title. It was written by a lobbyist. I think he was a lobbyist for the Saudi Arabian government. Back in the 60s or the early 70s. Oh, what is it called? Damn it. Anyhow, it's like...
So
he was proud of it. He wrote a book, and the research is easy to do. There's no secret about this. These people said at some point in the 70s, we don't want to be a party of working class organizations anymore. You know how I was just describing what a real party of the traditional party of the left looks like. And they said, we don't want to be that anymore. And by the way, we were first in this country, this sort of what's now called the third way. That was here. We invented that. And these people organized, and they, after every election, they would blame what they called the liberals, the sort of traditional New Deal Democrats. They would blame them for the loss, whatever it was. They got the loss, and the neoliberals, the New Democrats, got the win. Yeah, they always did this. Every election they did this.
Oh my God!
You didn't know this? Oh yeah, this is
all your fault. Medicare for all.
It's fun. This is part of the story. So every day after the election would be over, and they'd go on TV and be like, Walter Mondale lost because he's too liberal. Michael Dukakis, who is as neoliberal as it's possible to be, he loses, and so they go on to be like, he was too liberal. Nomi, he was a.
Well, I remember.
It's always about the New Deal. There's actually a historian of the New Deal who was writing about the New Deal in these days, in the 80s and the 90s, and he got he wrote a book that's just about all the times people said that the New Deal was dying or needed to die. The whole book is filled with these remarks, and again, this is right out in the open. You can go check it out of the library. It is hysterical. Like Gary Hart in the 70s when he was coming up. His standard issue stump speech would be like denouncing the New Deal, saying the New Deal is over. We have to have a new vision, and he called
his
those
vision
people.
Was great.
He called those people. He called those people Eleanor Roosevelt Democrats.
Whoa!
I know, isn't that mean? That's what he would call people.
Gary
like
Hart, a sexist. Who would have thought?
I know, and they called him an Atari Democrat. That was the cool thing, to be an Atari Democrat, because you were like in with the
it's like the
information age.
Early technocrats.
Well, you understood Silicon Valley and do. And,
Atari is the game for kids out there.
Yeah, that's right. I used to have one. I'd come home from school. I was a little latchkey kid, and I'd come home from school, and I'd be playing with that damn thing.
And Gary Hart ran for president, and Google Gary Hart
famously, had one of the first modern sex scandals where there wasn't even really any sex involved.
No, there wasn't. He was on a boat. It's a great story. We're not going to talk about it now, but Google it if you have a chance. And it's and he was supposedly going to be the one that was going to win.
Oh well, yeah, he had everything going for him. All the hot ideas, and he was young, and so anyhow.
So let's we're going to take a break in just a second, a really quick break. But what I want to talk about specifically is why there was this shift. I mean, you've documented this so well in Listen Liberal. So, I mean, I remember Elaine Kmark, who is from the Brookings Institution.
She's one of the sort of masterminds of all this.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was on the Unity Reform Commission with her, and she would just matter of fact, we need super delegates. Well, because people don't know, we need the elders to decide.
Yeah. They're not fond of democracy, these people.
She's not fond of democracy. The words that were coming out of her mouth, it was like, how out of touch are you that you don't even have code for this? You're just saying it. And then the second thing she said over and over, and I remember I responded, and I've said this a few times before, she says, well, we can't have another McGovern. We can't have another McGovern map, meaning his horrible loss. And I looked
72, right. Well, and why? Because he was too liberal. Actually, McGovern was basically one of them. He was what they called a new politics guy. When
I said to her, I said, what do you think the Hillary Clinton map was? What do you think? If that was not our McGovern moment, then what is our McGovern moment? Yeah. Seriously, that's why we were on the Reform Commission, was we were trying to figure out how not to do it again. And she just looked at us like we were going to create this. I'm like, you're get out of Harvard, get out.
Yeah, but that's that's part of the story. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here and talk about the different personalities, but they were all together. Please. They were all together in the 80s and 90s. What was it called? The Democratic Leadership Council. This is Bill Clinton was their sort of favorite politician. He was the guy that they wanted to run him for president. Al Gore was part of that group. Among Barack Obama was not, but he later sort of
he's too young.
He became an honorary one, Yeah. But Joe Biden definitely was part of that bunch,
Okay, kids, go back to the 90s.
Yeah. By the way, here's Al Fromm's memoirs. He was the leader of the Democratic Leadership Council, and the book is called The New Democrats and the Return to Power. And by return to power, he means the Bill Clinton administration, which is for him to this day, that is the great triumph. That's the great moment. Here's Gary Hart's memoir. Here you can see what he looked like. There he is. He got a big smile
that
on
was
his face.
pre controversy, obviously.
Yeah, that was in the 80s. He was running against Walter Mondale in 84. Yeah, the controversy was in 88.
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about this moment because I'm kind of vacillating. I guess I was before the transition team was announced. I was sort of vacillating between I just don't think that Joe Biden and this moment, given that we're in such the economy is spiraling, it's like they can falsely inflate Wall Street all they want. They can whatever they're going to do. It's not going to solve the crisis of this moment, a crisis that's larger since the Great Depression prior to COVID. And now post-COVID, he's just inheriting problems way bigger than I think 2008, 2009 under Obama. And as a result, I just feel like even because Joe Biden is the last he's an early neoliberal. So he existed before the technocrats came in and turned you into a candidate. No one turned
There's
him into a candidate.
There's something very old fashioned about him. He's and I think that are you asking me for a ray of hope here? Because I'll do that. I can play that game.
I don't know about a ray of hope, but I've been fascinated. I'm okay, so he could take this moment seriously, partly because he has nothing to lose and he just wants his legacy to be strong as a president. And this is an FDR moment. And he is a Johnson. He's like a Johnson's, kind of guy.
He is. He spent his life in the Senate. He has He has the Lyndon Johnson magical power, where he can talk anybody into anything, or at least he used to have it. Yeah. I don't know if he still does. But
then alternatively, okay. So here's my one thing that makes me feel like this moment's a little different. I looked at that transition team and I was like, oh, this is the Kamala Harris transition team. This is not the Obama third term. This is the Kamala Harris transition team. This is her brother-in-law. Well, her brother-in-law is the chair of the transition team, Uber lawyer. You look at the transition team; it's full of Silicon Valley, and of course, this is
the Prop 22 guys. Isn't that
Prop
great? What they just
crowd?
Did?
Yeah,
can you believe they just did that? That was Democrats just did that.
Yes, Democrats, not just Democrats. Kamala Harris Democrats just did that. So. Part of me was like, okay, we're going to have a new Democratic Party. We're going to have a new DNC because the neoliberal experiment failed. Even the Financial Times said that.
Wait, they did? They
Well,
did.
there was an
but
author
you know what's
there.
extraordinary? Like Tom Friedman is saying it. Paul Krugman is saying it. This is there. We are at a turning point. And this is one of the things that makes me very. I'm gratified. You know, because like this is what I've been saying for 30 years.
Yeah, but they're going to get the credit, Thomas.
I don't care about that. The thing is that it's finally made its way through the punditariat, you know, the pundit class, and they're you know, they're all agreeing. So it's like Biden can't go back to the neoliberal turn. He can't go back to. I mean, he can, but it'll be against, like, nobody believes it anymore. Like NAFTA style trade agreements, nobody thinks that's a good idea. What bank deregulation, the other great like triumph of Clintonism, nobody thinks that's a good idea anymore. So, by the way, if you go back and look at, you know, the New Democrats and the return to power, if you look at what their great triumphs were, remember the Clinton administration, what were they? Welfare reform, disaster. Crime bill of 94, which Biden, by the way, had a big hand in writing.
Yep.
Disaster, utter catastrophe. You look at bank deregulation and deregulation of telecoms, disaster, disaster, disaster. The trade agreements, disaster. The balanced budget, well, you can argue that one either way. I don't think it was a good idea. It's not something, but those were Clinton's. That's what he did. Those 5 things.
Let's not forget a really big one, ignoring Osama bin Laden, who was threatening the country during the Clinton administration and just being
I didn't know that.
preoccupied. Oh yeah, it's been written about.
But I was going to say, these are the things that Clinton admirers.
Terrorism. I mean, these two things that have just been haunting us for Clintonism and then the war on terror. These two things that have been haunting the party for the last 35 years.
Yeah,
or really last 20 years.
But look, all I'm saying is Biden can't go back to that. So, I mean, he might do it anyways, right? I'm sure he can find, you know, some economist or, you know, professor from Harvard to tell him it's a good idea.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.